There is no coming to consciousness without pain. For Jung, pain is a living message from the unconscious, a golden opportunity for individuation, the process of becoming what one essentially is. Jung saw suffering not as a mistake, but as a bridge. It arises when parts of the psyche are neglected or repressed. Thus, transforming pain into personal power requires, above all, a willingness to listen to one's own shadow. But what if pain isn't the enemy, but a secret map to your real self? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly the archetypes behind your emotional triggers and how to turn them into your greatest source of power. Welcome back to Occult Rise, where we dive deep insight into matters of the occult and human psychology, guiding you to master the game from the inner to the outer worlds. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and take your step inward with us, because looking inside is the only way out. Carl Jung saw the darkest moments of life not as random misfortunes, but as encounters with the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress, deny, or never fully knew. In these periods, life often strips away the familiar structures of identity, leaving a person in what Jung called the night sea journey, or the dark night of the soul. Common struggles here include a deep sense of alienation, the collapse of meaning, and the painful realization that old strategies for coping no longer work. At the core of Jungian thought, pain points to what has been banished from consciousness. Traumas, humiliations, and fears become complexes that, remaining unconscious, come to govern one's life. Jung used to say, observe each painful emotion as a symbol. Instead of rejecting anger, fear, or sadness, ask, what does this emotion want to reveal to me? By approaching the symptom as if it were a living dream, we uncover images, archetypes, and memories that hold keys for transformation. Another essential point is the process of assimilating the shadow. What we fail to integrate within ourselves is projected outward. Thus, troubled relationships or recurring crises reflect contents that remain unacknowledged. In other words, the outside world mirrors the inner world. The conscious mirrors the subconscious, and that's where the confrontation begins. The emotional, mental, or physical pain is closely linked to repeated patterns in the brain and body. It is an energetic pendulum that steals your vital force. The more you feed what causes the pain, the more this pendulum gets stronger. Remove the excessive importance attached to something, and it will stop creating the tension the universe needs to compensate for. According to Vadim Zeland, the author of Reality Transurfing, there is an energetic pendulum in the collective that shapes what's manifested in your reality based on your emotions. The pendulum is not a literal object, but a collective energetic field, a living structure made from the energy of human attention. Anything that draws your emotion, whether love, hatred, outrage, or fear, can become a pendulum. A political party, a religion, a family feud, a personal drama. The pendulum feeds on your focus. Think of it this way. Every time you argue, defend, or attack an idea with passion, you swing the pendulum, giving it momentum, mass, and force. That's why it's called a pendulum. It swings from one extreme to the other, creating polarities, conflicts, and obsessions. The more people vibrate at the same emotional frequency, the stronger the field becomes. The pendulum has no consciousness, yet it acts like a symbiotic organism. It manipulates your emotions to sustain itself. If the pendulum is drama, it wants more drama. If it's resentment, it wants more resentment. It always demands excess importance because importance generates tension, and tension creates the energy that feeds it. Zeland's genius lies in showing that fighting the pendulum only feeds it. Attack nourishes it just as much as blind support. That's why transurfing teaches, do not resist, do not fight, glide. Remove the importance, Observe the game, but don't become a piece on its board. When you release the emotional charge, the pendulum loses strength, and your vital energy returns to you, free to create a reality outside that field of influence. Zeland suggests observing the situation as a spectator. Do not resist, but do not identify with it either. The principle is simple. Allow yourself to be who you are, and allow the world to be what it is. Accepting the flow reduces tension and restores your vital energy. In essence, the pendulum is a vampire of your attention, but it is also a teacher. It shows where you still vibrate in dependency, automatic reaction, the need to prove something. In doing so, it reveals where the hooks lie, the anchors that can still manipulate your lifeline. Therefore, in Vadim Zeland's view, every pendulum is a subtle prison, but also an invitation to learn to flow like water, without struggle, without excess importance. It's not about being apathetic, it's about being free. In inner silence, you slip out of the oscillations. Then you can slide into a reality variant where pain, drama, and tension find no more fuel. Although Jung and Vadim Zeland may seem at first glance like very different voices, but there is a conceptual thread that connects them. Jung leads us into the first descent. He shows that pain points towards something deeper, the territory where conscious and unconscious still live apart. It is there that individuation begins, not as an escape, but as a meeting. Each shadow revealed is a fragment of the self returning to the whole, restoring a forgotten harmony. Zeland completes the circle by showing that external forces also shape the storyline. The pendulums vibrate in the collective field, pulling us into games that are not our own. To observe without attachment, to act without being trapped in polarity, allows vital energy to return to where it always belonged, the silent center of being. Together, these two paths form a single movement, to integrate what lies within and to stand rooted in one's own axis. It is the work of a soul artisan, carried out with the same patience that turns raw metal into a blade, and the blade into something that no longer serves to wound, but to sculpt what one chooses to be. Moreover, Jung championed the force of the living symbol. Suffering remains barren when it only hurts, but becomes fertile when translated into symbols, images, rituals, art, writing. In this way, a person wounded by rejection could use creative language to give form to the pain, making it a source of insight. This technique offers a new way to contain your emotions, to dance with it. Transforming pain into power, then, means withdrawing the projections, confronting what was denied, and consciously reclaiming it. Power is born when one stops blaming the external and accepts co-authorship of one's own psychic reality. The transcendence of the ego is indispensable. The isolated ego is fragile, but when rooted in the self, the organizing center of the psyche, it becomes resilient. Thus, the practice of inner silence, active imagination, or even analytic therapy helps the individual dive into their inner layers, gathering the scattered pieces of the soul. Personal power emerges as a harmony between conscious and unconscious, light and shadow. Transforming pain into personal power is an alchemical journey, negredo, albedo, citrinitas, and rubedo, which are alchemical phases of putrefaction, purification, and integration, each one marking a stage in the inner transmutation of lead into gold, the awakening of the true self. Pain is a death to a narrow vision of oneself and a rebirth into something wider, less ruled by secret fears. For Jung, pain is not an enemy but a messenger of a vital force that, when repressed, cries out to be heard. It takes courage not to numb it, but to embrace, translate, and reinvent it. In this way, the individual does not merely endure suffering, but shapes it into inner freedom. The pain is a necessary condition for the flourishing of the individual who dares to venture beyond the herd. The strong spirit transforms pain into power by enduring it like one endures fire, transfiguring its ashes into wings. Whoever frees themselves takes authorship of their own suffering. They ask what in it is repressed will, contained desire, or unlived potential. In this way, pain reveals where life is blocked. The invitation is not to suppress suffering, but to transmute it into strength. So once you break the addictive cycle of suffering, pain ceases to be the axis around which life turns. It becomes a trace, a sediment, the silent witness of battles that no longer need to be fought. What remains is the lucid strength of one who has crossed the desert and no longer fears the thirst. The individual who has transmuted their wounds carries a different gaze. They know that joy is not naive and peace is not absence, but conquest. The fire that once devoured now illuminates. And in that light, one walks not to escape pain, but because there is a horizon worth walking toward. And once you feel it, there's no turning back to repetition. Thank you for watching until the end. It means a lot. If this resonated with you, feel free to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might appreciate it. And tell me in the comments, what has pain taught you about the way you choose to live? See you in the next video.